County man was indicted for 15 charges stemming from 2 back-to-back bank robberies in March. 35-year-old Angel Montez of Presque Isle was inducted on 2 counts of robbery, 2 counts of theft, 10 counts of terrorizing, and 10 counts of violating conditions of release. State police reports say Montez went into the Aroostook Savings and Loan in Presque Isle, demanding money and claimed he would detonate a bomb if staff didn't cooperate. Deputies then received the call of an active robbery at Katahdin Trust in Mars Hill. When they arrived, they were told the man possibly involved was at a nearby IGA. Police arrested Montez after a brief pursuit on foot.